Hi, and welcome to Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli. You can follow me on Instagram at Tom_Scioli. And you can check out and support my Patreon at patreon.com. Just search my name, Tom Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tune.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at Total Recall Show or on Instagram at Total_Recall_show. So yeah, we're going to talk about a movie classic, like literally a classic. It's classical mythology, and it's a super old movie.
There's clashing in it?
Yeah, there's clashing, there's titans.
I've never seen this movie before.
Okay, wow, because when I suggested it as like a possible thing to talk about, I thought like, oh, well, it's... that it was like right there in your wheelhouse with all the 80s classics.
I have no idea how I missed it. There were so many scenes I was checking out throughout it that I knew I had seen somewhere else before. Mm-hmm. And once I started watching it, I was like, I've never actually watched this film before.
But you've heard Release the Kraken.
I've heard Release the Kraken. The scene where the Kraken emerges, I've seen that somehow a trillion times. I don't know. Is that in the intro to like Mystery Science Theater 3000?
That sounds...
Is like, that where it's at?
Because
where have I seen this?
I'm picturing it showing up in like some like 90s sitcom, like a Parker Lewis Can't Lose, or where like somebody's like, I'm going through a lot of inner turmoil, and then they cut to like different stock footage, and then they show the Kraken releasing.
I was going to say the Muppet Babies.
Yeah, Muppet Babies. Yeah, maybe like Gonzo opens a door, and then the
Kraken's
shows
inside.
Up.
Like Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Yeah. Oh my God. We should definitely do a Fox early 90s lineup episode.
I get
Herman's Head.
I get real nostalgic talking about that stuff, and that it kind of came up after we were talking about all the different like sitcoms that you're not sure if you imagined during our WandaVision episode. And like the one that I remembered, like after like we were all done, I remembered like there was a sitcom with Matthew Perry from Friends, Chandler from Friends.
Okay.
But he was like a teenager. It took place in the future, and so it was like this like older guy playing the same character as him, and he like dies, and he goes to like the pearly gates, and then he's like right in the middle. He's like not good enough for heaven and not bad enough for hell. So they decide to send him back in time to mentor his younger self, who's played by Matthew Perry, Chandler from Friends, and it was called Second Chance. I couldn't remember the title. I had to look up. It's called Second Chance. And so, and the thing that always stuck with me was like he was from the future, so he'd always like make these slip ups. So he'd talk about like President Travolta and stuff, and like Ronald Reagan being on the money and stuff. The part of it that like I wasn't sure if I dreamed or not was that I was pretty sure that it got to a point where like they just without any fanfare just dropped all the supernatural elements, and all of a sudden it was just about Matthew Perry and his friends, and there was like a Fonz character,
what?
like instead of a Fonzarelli, he was called Bucciarelli, and he was like Booch. Yeah, I'm just a kid, but like, what the fuck happened? Like, you can't pull the wool over my eyes like this. Just like eliminate all this like supernatural stuff and just act like it's business as usual. And so then I did like look it up.
What's it called? Second Chance?
It's called Second Chance, and then they changed the name after they got rid of all the like ghost stuff. They changed the name to like One of the Boys, or Boys Will Be Boys. I think it was Boys Will Be Boys. Yeah.
Dude, that makes it even better than that they dropped all this stuff.
Yeah, we talked about like Highway to Heaven on the Mandalorian episode. Imagine if like Highway to Heaven, it was like all of a sudden Michael Landon and Richard French were like just normal guys, and like they never mentioned anything about like heaven or angels or anything.
David Banner in the Hulk show is just a drifter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's he gonna change?
Or like Mork and Mindy. They're just like just
college students.
Yeah, just like a couple of hippies or whatever.
What a dummy! Okay. You blew my mind with What a Dummy.
Did you check out What a Dummy?
Not yet. I'd look over and see a piece of paper, and I wrote What a Dummy large on it. I'm like, Shout Factory has to release Learning the Ropes at some point.
Yeah, they're real good. I like Shout Factory's releases. They're always
me too.
I just bought the Super Mario 3 Shout Factory cartoon set. It's like a higher quality version of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Like the stories are better than Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
I watched a lot of that. Super Show and Captain N, the Game Master.
It doesn't have Lou Albano or the other guy. They dropped the live parts, and it's not Lou Albano and the guy who played Luigi. It's not their voices anymore, but it's like the same like animation and stuff. But it also like it cleaves more faithfully to the Super Mario 3 game, where like
that's awesome.
the Super Mario Super Show was just kind of slipshod. Like they all that stuff was like a little too new. They hadn't like kind of caught on yet, but Nintendo had been kind of like absorbed into the zeitgeist by that point. Probably save this for our Nintendo.
Oh yeah,
Sega,
we're going to take Nintendo Sega
Console
Wars episode.
Talking about classic TV, we got Harry Hamlin as Perseus. Burgess Meredith from Batman, Twilight Zone, Rocky series.
Harry Hamlin, when I was younger, watched a lot of Harry Hamlin because my mom watched L.A. Law.
Yeah.
And that was always on.
Mm-hmm.
So I always thought, like, L.A. Law was like, wow, that's the grown-up show.
Yeah, it's classy stuff.
Classy stuff. I was like, this is like, whatever's going on the show, it's important. And
yeah, it's funny because, like, I watched L.A. Law, too, and it was like, everybody's like all dressed up and wearing suits and like speaking in a very serious way. But the content was like the Jerry Springer show. It was like really, like it was just like, shock value, go for whatever. Like it was the first time I ever like heard somebody fart on a TV show, and it was and like like it was, everything was always about sex, and it was always like, whatever kind of like new thing was in the news or whatever, they'd figure out something.
From the headlines.
And you know what? There was.
Please.
I mean, we could do like Harry. While we're on Harry Hamlin, like we could do an LA Law episode, because it's like you had like, okay, so the guy farted. It was a guy who like it was like one of the lawyers, and like there'd be like some lawyers who would have like the sort of comedic story, and then some of the other lawyers would have like the serious story, and it was all like mixed together. And his was like I think it was like anytime he'd have sex, he'd get like real excited, and then he'd fart. And so then they had like a scene where he's like in bed, and it's like, and it was like the fakest fart sound effect. And as a kid, I was like I've never heard a fart.
When I was a kid, I was a movie and TV fart sound effect connoisseur.
Well, you know what we realize now with like TV, it's not that they didn't know how to make a fart sound. It's just like standards and practices. Like they were very particular. It couldn't sound too real. It couldn't be too wet.
If I had to like list some of my favorite film fart sound effects, it would be Leslie Nielsen's fart from The Naked Gun when he's caught on his own microphone. Always a great one. And then John Ritter was leaving some amazing farts in the Problem Child 1.
This one on LA Law, it sounded like they just took like a balloon and just like squeezed like the opening on the balloon, just like
my head's gonna explode.
I never missed an episode. As a kid, it was the only show.
See, I wasn't realizing what was going on, because I would just like be playing and look over, and everyone's wearing a suit, so I wasn't aware of actual.
You thought it was like Masterpiece Theater or something, but it was like Pee Wee's Playhouse,
I was probably the only like fifth grader that was like a Corbin Burnson head, and like Larry Drake, like
Dr. Giggles,
Dr. Giggles, Durant from Darkman. So I would see these guys. Then when I would see him in another movie, I'm like, oh, it's the guy from LA Law. Mm-hmm. Major League, Corbin Burnson.
Corbin Burnson, he like hosted Saturday Night Live, and he was kind of like, I guess, making fun of himself and making fun of like NYPD Blue and stuff, but he was making fun of this idea of like the hard-hitting, like new crop of like Stephen Bochco TV shows that are like, too hot for TV or whatever. And like, but he was making fun of it because it was in a Saturday Night Live skit, because it was like, even though these were like edgy shows, it's like you still could only do so much on TV. So it was like he was playing some kind of cop in this skit, and he's like, you know what that is? That's bull crud. And you know what bull crud is? It's the stuff that a bull leaves behind. That's how LA Law was. They like come right up.
My eyes are gonna bug out of my head here.
So yeah, that's Harry Hamlin. So like before LA, so when LA Law starts, it's like, there's the guy from Clash of the Titans. He's a lawyer now. His hair is like a little bit trimmed back.
I think Harry Hamlin's been going to Landon Bixby's barber here. That's some helmet head going on there.
Yeah, it's one of those like we might have to add a hair Hall of Fame to like the Total Recall Hall of Fame.
And all those guys that it's like they sit in these chairs and the hair is lowered down from the ceiling.
I mean, you see like the cone of silence, or like you see those old chairs that have in like, you know, hairdresser places in like the 60s or whatever. We're seeing from Clash of the Titans. I mean, hair is a big part of the Hollywood experience. You know, is hair.
Haircuts in this movie are great.
Harry Hamlin meets who would, you know, soon become his wife, Ursula Anders.
Oh, Honey Ryder from Dr. No.
Yeah, I think they had a son together. I don't think they were married very long. It was kind of like a, you know, an on-set romance.
Okay, I didn't know that. And whenever the Kraken attacked, I did see a blooper in real time, and it bumped me. It was amazing, and I went and checked see if somebody had already put it in the goofs on there. They
because this movie's been like studied, you know, over fine-tooth comb.
But the blooper was whenever the Kraken attacked, this dude's toga got blown up in the air,
like Marilyn Monroe.
It was weird. The dude walked over a storm drain in the subway, came by.
He made it look like an accident, but I don't think it was an accident.
He was when his toga got blown up in the air. He was wearing those classic '80s nut hugger shorts with the white piping.
They didn't have that in ancient Greece.
Yeah, it was like he was gonna rip his toga off and start playing for the Pistons or something. The purple like Marty McFly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Calvin Klein. Yeah, here comes Pegasus.
Pegasus.
And you know, beautiful. Like this is so like the real star of this movie is like Ray Harryhausen and his animation, and it's like his way. Like he made a number of movies like throughout his career, and it's interesting because he didn't direct the. He wasn't the director of the movie or anything, but he was kind of like, you know, the guy who would get these movies made, and he would, you know, like come up with like the pitch, and he'd kind of come in and he'd make like 7 or 8, you know, exquisite drawings of like the major effects sequences, and then that would be like the main thing to sell.
Of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. That would be they kind of build the movie around.
That's awesome.
Those. And so like
I have Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah, that's a classic too. Like Jason and the Argonauts, it's kind of like that's like our dad's generation. Like that was a huge movie for like the baby boomer men. That was like, as a kid, that was like their favorite movie. And like I remember like Tom Hanks talking about it, saying it was his favorite thing. And like when I was a kid, the name Jason was like huge. It was like I knew a million Jasons. There were a million in my first grade class. There were like a million Jasons. And my theory is that it was all these baby boomers who, like, when they were kids, their favorite movie was Jason and the Argonauts, and then when they grew up, it's like remember, like whether they remembered it or not, it was just subconsciously. It's like, I'm gonna name my kid Jason.
Amazing. That the Sinbad movies.
The Sinbad movie, those
on VHS. He had his tapes around, and
another Ray Harryhausen series.
I had somehow seen Jason and the Argonauts before Clash of the Titans. I don't know how that happened, but I guess because, like, once again, like with the Kraken attack, that like the special effects, you'd see them in like montages and stuff.
You'd probably see them if you were watching like
anything.
Like if you were watching like a Star Wars documentary, they'd be talking to like the effects guys.
Exactly.
They'd all be like, "I love Jason and the Argonauts" when I was a kid, and then they'd show like the skeletons fight.
That's
I think
exactly what it is.
even like Mark Hamill would talk about that. Oh, the skeletons in Jason and the Argonauts and stuff. He was like a stop motion animator. You know, starts out kind of like a special effects guy, but then it's like the special effects become like the trademark of these movies, and it's almost like everything else is like inconsequential. You're just like waiting for like the showstopper to show up. And in this, like, Pegasus is pretty awesome. In this. You know, we can get into some stuff about like the script for this movie, but it's like they kind of do like a mishmash. Like it's largely the Perseus and Medusa story from Greek mythology, but then it's kind of like, well, let's put Pegasus wasn't in the Pegasus is from a different. I think it was like Pegasus and Bellerophon, but they brought because it's like, you know, you can't do a Greek mythology thing and not have Pegasus in it, and Pegasus just looks so great. And this is, I think this is Ray Harryhausen's final movie.
Oh wow!
The effects in this are like
it's stunning.
Masterful. Yeah, like this is the best that he has to offer.
dude, like, I don't know where they're shooting at, but it looks great. They're on location, like, one effect after the other. It's like a craft, like, that's like...
Like, you just stop, and it's like, maybe somebody would argue that, oh, that's like bad storytelling because it takes you out of... But it's like, it's a whole other thing. You just kind of stop, and you're just, like, transfixed, watching this stuff, and then maybe even, you get caught up in the reality of it, but then you're also kind of, like, aware of the human hand, and that kind of adds, like, an extra, like, fascination. Seventh Voyage of Sinbad was the first Sinbad movie that Harryhausen did. He did like 3 or 4, but the first one was called Seventh Voyage because it's like to imply that, like Star Wars or something, to imply that there's this huge backstory. And to me, that might be the best of Harryhausen. Like that one's this one is my favorite. And it's hard, Clash of the Titans is my favorite, and it's hard for me to isolate how much it's like, is this the best one? Or is this just like because it was like my introduction to Harryhausen's work, and it's just like, it's like, my era, like when I was a little kid, this is what the world looked like,
I've watched it twice within a short amount of time here, and I wish I would have watched it when I was younger, man.
Yeah.
That would have, I think this would have imprinted some more shit on my brain.
Mythology is like a huge fascination of mine, and like Greek mythology in particular. Like, I don't think this was like the beginning. Like, this didn't, but it certainly like, was like added like gasoline to the fire. I think I was I was like aware of those stories prior to this, and sort of fascinated with those stories. But this was like cemented it. Like Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. It's got this cool 50s look. And like the whole thing holds together real nice, and it has a good script. But then this one has a good script too, and it's got like the 80s thing that kind of works for it, a little of that 80s glisten,
We I've mentioned it in previous episodes, but like anytime a movie, like the decade the movie's made, even though if they're trying to make a period piece, like the vibes of that decade seep, they bubble to the surface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the same time, it's got a timeless quality. Like, it's super dated, but then timeless. Like, it's just, you can't take your eyes off. And, it's got some, like, a couple slow parts and stuff, maybe some dumb parts or whatever. But it's like, when it's working, it's like firing on all cylinders. And, like, look, you got...
oh, my gosh.
Calibos, which I think was, there's, that's also a character, like I think that was a character they created, like I don't know that there's a Calibos in mythology. It sounds like they're taking sort of Caliban from Shakespeare, and then like inserting his type of character and giving him this really like, creepy like satanic, Pan, the satyr kind of look, but then also, and recently I started kind of, doing kind of like Greek mythology comics, kind of like translating them into kind of like a superhero kind of thing. And I did Young Zeus, and then I did like an adaptation of the story of Perseus. And it's like, I told the story, trying to cleave, true to the mythology and stuff. So, but, in the course of it, of working on that, I kind of like, I was really in awe of like what a great job they did on the script for this. It was Beverly Cross. He did Jason and the Argonauts, so he was like somebody who worked with, and I guess like sort of specialized in mythology.
He was like the go-to guy.
Yeah, and like that was kind of his interest was like, it's not like he was some screenwriter and it's like, oh, here, could you write Clash of the Titans? It's like he's a guy he's a screenwriter who's into Greek mythology.
His specialty.
And I think that was like part of his like kind of mission too. Like he wanted to kind of like teach these stories to kids and kind of like make them palatable or marketable or what, but kind of like sort of like because they were things that they were important to him. The script is kind of amazing because like knowing the actual myths and how they fit together and stuff, and then seeing what they do here, because like the story of Perseus kind of like meanders and goes all over the place, and it's very like episodic. It's like, and then this happens, and then this happens. Like with this movie, like he found a really nice way of like giving it a shape making like a cause and effect and making the whole story work together. And then he introduces like this amazing like heavy, the bad guy in Calabos in this kind of like like how scary is his like land of
we talk about the hair game. Looks like he's got a little perm going on. Here.
He's got like his hair kind of goes like from his head to his ass. It's all of a piece. And like even Perseus has all this gear. Like he has the magic sword. He has the helmet that makes him invisible. In the mythology, he has like sandals that can make him fly that he got from Hermes. In this, he doesn't have that, but he has Pegasus instead. But like he has all this gear that you think makes him invincible, but it's like not to Calabos. He's got his sort of like animal sense where he can kind of like sniff him out and see his footprints.
They're in the swamp here.
This is a great fight, and it's also like Perseus has all this like magical gear, but then like he messes up again and again and like loses it all like one piece at a time.
The props look great too. Oh, there's a skeleton in the back.
Yeah, all this great set dressing. It's like a Hammer film or something.
I love those witches.
Yes.
And they have that. They have no eyes. It reminded me of like Pan's Labyrinth, where the creature has to put his like hands up to his eye.
Like Jim Henson. It reminds me of the Dark Crystal. It reminds me of Labyrinth. All that Jim Henson stuff. That was like kind of a good adaptation. Like in the myth, they all share an eye. So like you kind of picture like they have like no sockets, and then they like have this one eye that they kind of pop in and pop out and stuff. And in this, they kind of make it a little less like lurid, but like a little more kind of like, I don't know, like sci-fi or whatever, fantasy, where they have this like crystal that they like hold up to their foreheads and see through, and just like the way that scene plays out, it's just like it's just like I'm really like in awe of like knowing the source material and then seeing what they did with it, like kind of give it like some meaning.
I love it. It's like from the magical world of Jim Henson's Creature Shop. It was weird when Burgess Meredith's character told Perseus, he's like, "You're gonna eat lightning and crap thunder."
This is like the last hurrah for like that genre. There's like that genre, like the sword and sandals genre that was like such a big part of Hollywood for such a long time. And I think it was probably just like they talk about how like so many westerns got made because they were just like so inexpensive. Like, what did you really need to make a western? And some dusty hats and like the same set and like a tumbleweed.
You could film like 5 shows on the same lot.
Yeah, and like I think it's kind of the same thing. Like the sword and sandal epic lasted as long as it did because it was just like it was just like some sheets that they'd keep recycling.
Somebody cornered the market on the sword and sandal name. Somebody tries to like come in on them. They're like, it's the Mason loincloth.
Like it's kind of like the end of like an era and then like the beginning of another era. Like it's kind of like these different eras intersecting because it's like the end of like Ray Harryhausen's world, which kind of like he studied under the guy who did the effects for King Kong. And Harryhausen was just like in awe of King Kong.
Did he do a Mighty Joe Young?
Yeah, he did Mighty Joe Young. That was
his like ape tie.
Yeah, his apprentice. And so like he goes back like pretty far and has this career that goes through like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then like right at the beginning of the 80s. So you're at the end of his thing, and then you're also kind of like it's crossing paths with like kind of like the Lucas and Spielberg like.
He's still in the game where they can like
they're like peers.
And even like, hey, we gotta pick Harryhausen's brain here.
He can still hold his own with the young bucks. His day was just about done, but it's like he's still he's still got like one last like rodeo in him and in a big way. Like this is it's like maybe not held in the same regard as like the Spielberg and Lucas movies of that era, but it's like the heights of it are as good as like anything that's ever been put on film.
Yeah, I had to watch it again. This is worth a second viewing immediately.
The thing that everybody remembers and like the showstopper, like the thing that is like in like the Film Hall of Fame or whatever, the Medusa scene, like that like you just cut that piece out of this movie and it's like this like perfect segment of film. Like it's chilling, it's very realistic. Like it's as far as you can push this way of working. Like I haven't seen anything, but like they did a big budget, you know, CGI remake of this movie, and it's like, you know,
there's no like soul to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I have very like vague recollections of like what that Medusa was versus this, where it's like, you know, I could tell you every
detail,
scale, you know, yeah.
He like falls in the water and his hair like buoys him.
He must have been David Hasselhoff's idol when he was doing Knight
Oh
Rider.
my gosh! Or like
it's like I want that. I want that. Give me the Hamlin.
And he kept it all the way through.
Yes, Michael.
Baywatch Nights.
Yeah. Baywatch is just like a slightly tighter. It's like a shrunken version of the Harry Hamlin, Michael Knight hair.
Dispensing moose, Michael.
You said you've seen like bits and pieces of this over the years. Like, had you seen the Medusa scene?
I had not seen that.
No. Okay.
It was the Kraken. So I've seen Calibos. But somehow the Medusa scene, I had never seen it before this.
You know, it might be one of those things, like, I remember, you know, on TV, they would always run Conan the Destroyer, but they'd never run Conan the Barbarian.
I know.
Because it was like, you know, it was like too intense, had boobs, and it was very, like, real violent, where Destroyer was like a little more, it had a little more sheen to it. It was a little more...
I saw Conan the Barbarian after Destroyer.
Yeah, I saw Destroyer a million times, and like, it's like, okay, this movie's okay.
Even Red Sonja was on the TV, it felt a lot.
But I didn't see Conan the Barbarian, like the first one, until high school, and I was like, oh, where's this been all my life? And I'll bet it's like the same thing with like the Medusa scene. Like, you know, you'd see the Kraken or something, because it's like not that scary, but like they're not going to put the Medusa scene on like an episode of
Muppet Babies.
Muppet Babies or something. Yeah. What did you think as somebody like seeing it for the first time? Like that's kind of crazy to me. Like, what would you think?
Like, it's a staple. I don't know what. Like, I just assumed that I had seen it for some reason.
Like, one of the elements of the mythology that I thought plays really well, like, or that like they got across really well in this, is this idea of like Zeus playing favorites, because like he in the myths he I mean, like Zeus is sort of, he's like a trickster god, you know, to say the least, and he plays favorites, and it's like Perseus is his son, so he's gonna like fudge all the rules as much as, and twist arms of the other gods to kind of like help his son along the way. And then there's like resentment from the other gods.
Laurence Olivier.
Yeah, as
Zeus. And I had always thought that, like, for some reason, I didn't realize he had made a lot of movies when he was sick later in life. I thought for some reason I thought like Marathon Man was his final movie.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh, he made so many more movies while he was...
He seems very hale and hearty in this movie, but there is a lot of seating, which, you know, like for Zeus, you know, he's on his throne. And like there's that, he sits on his throne and sort of pontificates and stuff, and a great performance.
Oh,
you know,
my gosh.
Like earns his paycheck.
I love him in Marathon Man too.
Does his Laurence Olivier thing, you know.
Yes, stand and deliver.
But like he's got this like, it's like this laser light going behind him, like you know, Michael Jackson in the like Off the Wall era, like with the laser behind him. Don't stop till you get enough, kind of like laser going behind his head. But it's like, as a kid, I'd like watch this and I'd be like, you know, is that what God looks like? Is that what God looks like? Like it you know, and whether I was like you know, consciously asking that, but it was kind of like, that was kind of like, you know, like I guess that's like God.
Yeah,
that's what God. Or,
it might have been on TV, I think, and I somehow there was like a couple movies that I missed seeing them when I was younger, that I don't know how, by chance, like not renting or like missing it when it's on TV. Like Scrooge is another one, Bill Murray.
Yeah, I mean, I've still never seen Scrooge.
Oh, there
like,
you go.
And again, and it's one of those things where I like know I've seen like little bits and pieces of it, but I've never like sat down and watched Scrooge from start to finish. Like I watched this a million times when I was a kid. Like, would you let a child anywhere near this movie? Like this freaky stuff that you're seeing.
Oh, I know.
It's really scary, and it sticks with you. Like
sticks with you too. Like
Nightmare Fuel.
Nightmare Fuel. We mentioned Nightmare Fuel on the Total Recall show many times, and another Nightmare Fuel for me was, is it Superman 3 where that the computer, like the woman...
Yeah, she becomes like a computer. She gets pulled into the computer and like all the wires wrap around her.
Oh my god, that's another one that... It's freaky as an adult, but it's like, that's some Nightmare Fuel as a kid.
Well, and sometimes like the bad effects help make it even scarier sometimes. So like that one you're talking about from Superman 3, it's kind of like in fast forward. It's like kind of cheesy, but then that kind of like makes it like more disturbing.
Yeah, is it being played in reverse or something?
Yeah, there's something very off about it.
I think he's in like full blown out mode.
He knows like the right facial expressions to go with that hair.
He does too.
This is like the beginning, and it is kind of like, when they cast him in L.A. Law, it's like, oh, they got a shirt on this guy.
Finally, this guy's like, it's like, surprised to see Hamlin wearing a shirt.
Do you remember when the Simpsons were like, they were presenters on the Emmys? They like inserted the Simpsons in the Emmys, and then Lisa Simpson is like, Mom, look, it's Harry Hamlin. And then they kind of cut to him.
That's amazing.
Maggie Smith is Thetis, and then Thetis was like, she was like Poseidon's wife. Okay. Like she was like the goddess of the ocean or whatever. And so she's the one telling Poseidon like, you better destroy Andromeda, and release the Kraken.
Oh my! Day for night shooting here.
Mm-hmm. There's like a creature I kind of forgot in it, like because this is so chock full of like great effects. There's like they go to fight Medusa, and then there's like this like dog creature that's pretty cool, but he's kind of like he's last on the list. But in any other movie he'd be the standout. I'll like watch like a Godzilla movie, and then of course like just fast forward to like when Godzilla's doing his Godzilla thing, and like you watch a Ray Harryhausen thing and just kind of like fast forward through. Although like I gotta say that like I think Clash of the Titans like hangs together like maybe the best of like this and Seventh Voyage of Sinbad are like the ones where like the movie is all of a piece, and like I'll gladly watch like the whole thing, and I don't it's just sometimes you just want to pop the candy in your mouth.
Oh
and
my
just
God!
The owl shows up. There's like the owl who's like Athena's owl, and like Zeus is like, send your owl to him, and she like she loves her owl. She's like, I'm not gonna send my owl to that asshole. So then she gets like the god, like Vulcan or whoever, like the god of blacksmithing or whatever, or the god of gimmicks, the gadget god, Gadget Gary.
I'm a wrestler. I'm like, I praying to the god of gimmicks to give me I'm like, this one's gonna put me over.
He makes a replacement. The god of gimmicks makes a replacement Archie. He makes this like mechanical, this clockwork Archie to go assist him, and some debate. I mean, some like when the movie came out, it was like, oh, they're just ripping off Star Wars with the little whistling robot, but then the filmmakers claimed that this was all like in development before that. This had like a long development process, but But regardless, I'm calling him Archie. I forget what his name is, but it's like
I'm with you.
Yeah,
he's Archie.
He's his own. He's got his own thing.
Didn't they call him Bilbo or something?
It was Bubo.
Bubo.
Yeah, Bubo. And of course, like as a kid, he was like
so
he's like
cool.
the kid's favorite. He's the Ewoks or the R2D2.
I'm all in on Bubo.
The Medusa. I would just think about that all the time, like this thing of like, oh, you can't look at her or you'll turn to stone, and like, but then you can like look at her in a mirror, and then I'd be like thinking like, because when they like shine, when they point her at somebody, it's like her eyes start to glow, and it's like super scary, and I would think like, oh, am I gonna turn to stone watching this movie? I had the opportunity to see this in the theater and turned it down. I was just like, it was like too scary. Like I was like, I don't want to. That looks really scary. I don't want to see it. And so like, everybody else went to see it. I stayed
behind.
I think it was in the summer, and I think we were at like my grandmother's house at the shore. So like I stayed behind like with her at her house, or watched like first iteration of Nickelodeon, like when Nickelodeon was like a new channel. And so then like everybody's telling me about how great it was, and so like I saw it on probably like one of the first VHS tapes I saw was the very first VHS. I mean, the very first thing I ever saw on VHS was Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Oh wow!
We were at like my parents' friend's house, and they had Michael Jackson's Thriller on like a videotape.
Okay.
Play that, and we're like, what? This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. But I think like the first time we had like a VHS in our house was like, my dad borrowed the VCR that they had at work, and then for like a weekend, and then brought it home. and then like he brought home like Star Wars, like I guess they like rented Star Wars or whatever, and so but then like what a fucking brat. Like Star Wars wasn't good enough. Like Star Wars at that point was like a little bit passe. Oh, but did you get Raiders of the Lost Ark? And so my dad, like to his credit, he went up the street and got Raiders. Like Star Wars wasn't good enough. He got Raiders of the Lost Ark, and so I got to watch it. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, I watched on VHS. That was like the first like VHS tape I watched at my house.
I grew up with VHS, so that was just the thing that was there. But then, like, it was a weird backwards thing where beta.
Yeah.
And I saw that so I'm just VHSing, we're living our lives, and then I see this, and I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. The day, like, we got a VCR, and it was VHS, like, that was, like, I couldn't even believe, like, I felt like we won the lottery or something, because, like, I was at, like, my friend's house, and then, my mom came to pick me up, and then she's like, oh yeah, we got a VCR, and I was like, what?
Oh my gosh.
And it was a VHS, but it would have been very on brand if like they had gotten like a beta and then we like were kind of like stuck, but no, they got the VHS.
He had to explain to me a couple times. He's like, it's beta. I'm like, what? And I'm like, I don't understand.
It's beta. It's beta. It's even better.
I'm like, but what is it? He's like, it's
word on the street is it was like a better technology, better picture quality. It just like didn't catch on. But like I don't know. I don't think I ever watched a beta.
I haven't either. Like he just had it out, and the tapes looked weird too.
They're like a little smaller.
Yeah.
And they had like, they looked kind of like they weren't symmetrical. There was like one big circle and like one little circle.
We had the VCR, but then he got a video camera, so we had a camcorder, and it was like on like the dawn of the camcorder. So like we have a lot of family movies. I've been trying to like digitize them and stuff, but. You could also hook it up to the TV and use it as like a VCR.
As a VCR, right? Yeah.
And I remember we had rented, I think like Karate Kid 3 or something. That might have been the first movie I saw in widescreen. But I remember my dad was like spending a long time trying. There was the widescreen format had the black bars.
Trying to get the vertical hold to get those black bars out of the picture.
I remember he was working so hard trying to get that expanded, and he was like. He was trying to get him off
I remember my parents being like real angry if they like rented a tape and then it had the bars on the top, like they felt like they were getting ripped off, like there was stuff going on up here and down here that they weren't getting to see.
We never took advantage of recording. Like I thought recording with programming your VCR to record something on television was like about as like you should be able to fire like the nuclear missiles and program the VCR. I don't know, like we never achieved.
I like for me it was like I know people who were like on the ball with it, where like that like they still have like VHS tapes of like every like when Ghostbusters was on TV in like 1986.
Oh my gosh! I haven't gone. That was like us. Like I haven't gone through I've been trying to go through the archives. We have like I'll open a tote Alf. The music video episode where they're...
Oh yeah, take a look at me and tell me what you see. Just another pretty face. Yeah.
Have we heard that? Or like The Empire Strikes Back, the premiere.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
With the Sunday night of the movies coming down, like.
Yeah, my friend Chris, he has like all the Godzilla movies that would run on like Creature double feature, channel 48, like and channel 17 in like Philadelphia in the 80s. With like the. Dan and Light and Lively commercials.
Dude, the commercials too were part. Like I was going, something I recorded off television. And I'm like, damn it, yes, I captured a Tango and Cash trailer, like or like these old commercials you forget about.
Yeah, the commercials they come right back because like they're just like implanted in your memory. There's nothing like they need to be like awoken. Like the button needs to be pressed for you to remember that. But then when you do, because it was like. I'd be watching like one of these things and it'd be like, pressure getting higher. Difference is you stay drier. It'd be like these like deodorant commercials, and then it's like you can snack a pack of the handy dandy Light and Lively 6-pack.
Tonight on the Hogan Family.
Yeah, you'd hear like the voice of like the guy who was like the voice of ABC, or whatever. Tonight on the $1 Million Movie.
Oh, that's. It's like manna, or like the old news bumpers. I remember it'd be like, it's like Patrice King Brown tonight on the night. They call it the night beat for like channel. I can't remember what newscast it was, but you see like news like like bumpers and stuff.
In Philly, we had this channel. It was like channel 48, and it was like my favorite channel. It had all the best stuff on. It had all like the little kid stuff, and you'd watch like it would have like Abbott and Costello movies. It would have the Three Stooges. It would have just like all the cartoons and stuff. And then they had the TV 48 Fun Machine, where it was like these like arcade games, and then that they'd like introduce like the Popeye cartoons and stuff. And then like when I was real little, Channel 48 went away, like went off the air. So like the voice of Channel 48, like the guy who's the voice of Channel 48,
that's
Daddy, is that you?
Like the Micro Machine commercials with the
Micro Machine guy, yeah.
Yeah,
he was everywhere. Like before the Micro Machine guy, I think he was on like the Great Space Coaster or whatever. He would be like everywhere.
He was getting a lot of entree. That guy. We love that guy. It's like, what's his name? Like John Frusciante or whatever, or like Arthur.
It's funny because
Cesarelli or...
he like he had this skill, and it was like he was incredibly in demand, and anytime they needed somebody to do that skill, it would be him. But it was like really like every kid could do the same thing.
Why would I would attempt it?
Yeah, we all wanted to. Yeah, maybe it's an illusion. Maybe I thought we could all do it. Like how everybody can do Kermit the Frog or whatever.
Yeah, everyone gives it a shot.
Yeah.
Or like, but there was like the Micro Machine guy was fast talker, and for a second, I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I might have once again. I think I'm huffing gas usually, but like I thought this guy was going to overtake the Micro Machine guy. He was the guy that you could turn to any page in Stephen King's It, and he could like start reading. You could like turn to a random page, and this guy had memorized.
Well, you'd like tell him like a one word, and then he'd just like go from there.
It was like the master of Stephen King's It, and I thought
there was Echo Man. Remember Echo Man?
No.
Trying to carve out like a little bit of real estate for himself.
Okay.
Like the Micro Machine guy, he could like sound like Echo Man. Like he could like make it sound like he was giving a speech on the PA of like a baseball field.
I would try
it's
to.
Me, Echo Man.
I'm gonna.
I am the luckiest
man on my face.
Yeah, that was pretty much. Yeah, that's Echo Man.
Echo Man.
Yeah, they like improve on the mythology because it's like Karen or Kayron, the ferryman on the river Styx. In the myths, I mean, I don't think they really describe him. He's just kind of like a guy with a stick who pushes. But in this, it's like he's the Grim Reaper. Like it's like
once again, great. Oh, I forgot the great image. It was scaring the crap out of me.
Yeah, great
in the
heavy metal kind of image there. Yeah, great, and like the silhouette and stuff.
So
like
scary.
And with all that like atmosphere and mist and stuff, like it's like.
Dude, this one has scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. Maybe it's better you didn't see it. With a lot of these like mythological stories, it's like the monsters, like whether it's like the Minotaur or the Medusa are like very like sympathetic kind of like you kind of feel bad for like this like asshole with a sword shows up and comes into their house and just like kills them.
It's like his maze. Like this is his place.
Yeah, it's like a home invasion or something. But like.
The Minotaur's just drinking a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And he's like...
Because it's like you could sort of like maybe, if you're trying to like make this story like work or whatever, you could like sell Medusa as some kind of threat. Like maybe she's like tearing through the countryside, like showing up in like a village or whatever and like, turning everybody there to stone and moving from place to place. Like, oh, she must be stopped. But it's like there's none of that. It's like you just like she's just in her cave
zone,
and you got to go like in like the original myth. Yeah. So then this wolf, he's kind of like a half-assed version of Cerberus, the dog. He's not 3-headed. He doesn't have a tail as a snake. He has 2 heads. Yeah, and just a normal tail. Perseus's future stepfather, the guy who wants to marry his mother, tells him like, oh, go get the head of the Medusa. Like if you want to come to this party, everybody has to bring a gift. You didn't bring a gift. Go get the Medusa head and bring it here. So it's like this very arbitrary kind of. And then he goes, where in this it's like, it's got a purpose. And then in the myth, he just kind of like incidentally finds Andromeda, and then she's getting attacked by the Kraken, and then he doesn't like turn the Medusa head on the Kraken. He like fights the Kraken and kills the Kraken, where in this they just like come up with great solutions where it's like, okay, he goes to fight Medusa specifically to get Medusa's head so that he can, turn Kraken to stone. Like they could come up with like real good.
That's so awesome.
But if you really like get into the myths, Medusa is like such a sympathetic character. Like she really like when you read the story, you can't see it any other way than just like, she like her origin is like super tragic, and like it's all like, through no fault of her own, she gets it's just like this awful, she just gets like, punished again and again for like, other people's crimes. Basically, it's like in this telling, you just have to like. It kind of like would it would be interesting, but you just kind of like you definitely wouldn't be rooting for Perseus if you knew her backstory.
Once again, these special effects, the settings look so good.
Harryhausen would talk about that of like just like in the act of like animating these things, sort of like one tiny move at a time, and so he would like really identify with them, and so. He would put a lot of pathos into them. Seeing that dog get killed, it does. It is like
heartbreaking.
Part of what makes all this stuff work.
He looks good carrying a sword, and like he
right. Like he could have done like 10 of these movies, or like just kind of like I don't know if this movie like maybe it was like a modest hit, or maybe it was one of those things where it was like before they knew what a bonanza home video was going to be, so it was like, okay, it came out, it did whatever, that's that, but it's like it kind of like lived on, forever.
It's like in some action movies, it's like they look weird holding like a gun or a sword. It's like they can't pull it off. Like Schwarzenegger looks amazing holding like weaponry on camera, and some people can't pull it off.
His agent's like, I'm trying to get, but nobody's making these kind of movies anymore. This was the last one. You'd have to wait until like the 90s or whatever for like Gladiator, and for this kind of like comeback of this kind of movie, like 300 and stuff.
Oh there's a run. You get a little run. Hamlin shows up to the audition. He has his hair like looking exactly like he did in this. Was
he in any of the 300 movies? I mean, like as like kind of like the older, or have him play Zeus or something. Did you see like Medusa's shadow, like that's the other thing with this. This is like what this scene has. The lighting, it's like it's got flickering candlelight on a stop motion. Like, how do you even do that? Like, you would need to be like just an expert.
That's too.
This technology, like, kind of like it dies with him. This like personal body of knowledge that you've accumulated, and then the guys at ILM are trying to like reverse engineer it, and like the AT-AT walkers, their stop motion, they move pretty cool, but it's like it's a whole other thing to have somebody where it's like their head is like covered with snakes, that each snake has its own personality and is doing his own thing, while and again the flickering torch lights.
He can animate it only like he can.
You think about the ideas people have about like Hollywood and stuff, how it's like just churning out product and stuff. But then here we have like an example of a singular artist, like a sort of like one person, handmade, only they can do, only they can bring. And just like the way the way the beats of this scene plays
Whenever
out.
that guy got turned to stone, that was like so scary.
Yeah. I was scared of a lot of stuff that I'd see in like movies and stuff when I was a kid. And this, like, there's definitely like a tension, but this didn't like terrify me the way it should. And I think it is like the difference, like for me, it was like if the like sort of the main character, or like the character you're supposed to identify with, has like some kind of like agency or some kind of strength. It's like if it's like teenagers in the woods getting chased by Jason and getting killed one at a time. It's like that's like super terrifying to me. But it's like he's got a magic sword. He's got the mirror, like he can stand up.
He's stacked.
Yeah, he can stand up to these monsters. Or like the Ghostbusters, like it's a bunch of ghosts, but they got this laser gun that they can shoot them with. It's like if you could kind of push back, then it didn't like psychologically, it like didn't bother me. It was like I could kind of justify like the situation in my head.
Like he's gonna make it. I saw Harry and the Hendersons in the theater, and they had Bigfoot like on top of the car, and he like drops down in front of the window while they're driving. It scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, I'd hear about the Loch Ness Monster, and I thought it was like the locked up monster. So I thought it was like this monster that they had in like a cage somewhere. You could like go see it. Look at that sword. It's like, that's like a sword like Napoleon Dynamite would draw. Or something. It's got like little diamonds in the hilt and stuff.
He pulls that out. He's like, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power.
Yeah. Like, I wonder how often Harry Hamlin like screens this movie at home. Him and his wife.
Do we have to watch Clash of the Titans again?
What's this? How'd this get on here? Oh, how embarrassing.
They're like, all right, we just got invited over to the Hamlins. Are you ready to watch Clash again? We know Harry's going to be screening that baby. He's like, I got the Medusa scene queued up.
And then, and the death rattle of Medusa. Again, like...
That is so creepy.
Yeah, and this, ready to throw up.
Oh my god.
The ooze that comes in. Yeah, and it's acid that's like melting his shield. I feel like as a kid I would like draw variations of this kind of thing, acid blood melting stuff from monsters.
He's like, well, gonna go grab some lunch.
They kind of like move away from it as the movie goes on, and then I think they come back to it a little at the end. But I like how the gods have this little like setup with like little like clay figures that they can kind of like pose and stuff, and that's when like Zeus transforms Calibos starts out as like this very handsome figure, and then he like turns him into a monster and through his like clay figure, and then like Perseus is like passed out, like he's got nothing left in the tank, and so his like little clay figure's like lying down, and then like Zeus stands him back up, and then he's like re-energized.
It's like, what are you doing over there? And he's like giving himself like big muscles on his figure. Anytime somebody has like stuff with like they're curious, like arranged, I'm always like...
Zeus kind of like angling things in Perseus's favor. It's like, oh, how's he gonna travel from here to there in just 2 days? And then he like just takes his figure and like sticks him there. Calibos's hand gets cut off, and then it gets replaced with a fork, and then he stabs Medusa's head with the fork, and then the blood pours out of this viscous red blood pouring out of the bag, and then now that's part of the myth. Like in the myth, like some blood dripped out of Medusa's head as they were carrying it, and then it formed these like scorpions in like a desert. But in this, they're giving it like the Ray Harryhausen treatment, where it's like, okay, yeah, you like scorpions, here's giant scorpions. These characters, just like the look of them, they're so perfect. Like Calibos is just like kind of this perfect design, and they had like action figures, and they were like amazing. They like lasted for like 2 minutes. They never even made like a Medusa action figure. I wanted those action figures so bad, and they had like a Halloween costume contest at like the Scouts. Like I wasn't a Scout, I was, but
they were holding the contest.
They were holding the contest. I was just like a little, and they had like different age groups and stuff. Yeah. And I entered and like one of the prizes was you'd get this little pack of 3 of the Clash of the Titans action figures, and like I wanted those, and of course I didn't. I probably just had one of those like store-bought costumes with like the string and stuff, But I thought I had a chance. I did not want. There's like somebody, they had a Chewbacca costume that was like
immaculate.
I couldn't tell you the difference between like Chewbacca and this person's like. Now again, this is like a little kid's memory, so maybe it was like an okay Chewbacca, but like to me it was like movie quality.
Like holy shit!
At a time when you wouldn't really see that, like now that's like way more common.
Yeah,
but yeah,
a good costume back in the day is like mind collapsing,
and just never crossed paths with those toys. So like the other day, I was like looking them up online, see like, oh, let me just break down, get those toys.
Yeah.
But they go for like big bucks now, because it was like they came out for like 2 minutes. The movie, came and went, so the toys came and went. They never came out with, like, the second wave.
I'm jealous, like, getting toys or an action figure as a prize when you're a kid, like, that rarely happens for like, a sick costume contest to be giving out action figures.
Yeah, imagine, imagine the competition if, like, you knew ahead of time that there were going to... Like, you just show up and you're like, wait, that's the prize?
That's the prize? Get out. You said scorpions in the desert, like... Calibos, he's like, what's going on here? And they start, it's like, oh, they're playing Rock You Like a Hurricane.
I'm at a point now where I kind of see everything through like a Jack Kirby lens, but I do kind of wonder if there's, because like there's, Calibac is a character from like Jack Kirby's New Gods, who's kind of this like bestial kind of thing. And again, he's based on Caliban, as Calibos obviously is. So I wonder if they were making this movie, if they were aware of Calibac as sort of like the main antagonist of the hero, but then also like just the way Zeus plays favorites and the way stuff that's going on in Mount Olympus affects what's going on below, like is very like almost like 1-to-1 with like what would happen in like the Thor comics. So I wonder if it's just like if they're making this movie and they're aware of like the Jack Kirby's comics as they're making this, or if it's just like shared parallel thinking, shared influences. Jack Kirby was watching all the Sword and Sandal movies like as he was making his comic.
I like to see it in the theater, man.
Yeah, that's one of my regrets. I had the chance to see it, didn't get like opted out. It looked too intense. What like a golden age of cinema? You'd have like movies like this. You'd have like Wrath of Khan would be coming out. This, the Star Wars movies, the Indiana Jones movies, Ghostbusters, like all these like great kind of like fantasy kind of things, and then like a couple years later, it kind of dries up a little.
Yeah.
You get to like 87 or something, and it's like you got like RoboCop, and then that's it. This kind of like wave kind of like fizzles out a little, and it kind of until like Batman comes out, but
fires
up. But even that didn't like kickstart a next wave of things the way it should have.
Yeah.
The way that like what that's why like I really do like appreciate and value these like Marvel movies more than probably a lot of other people do, because it's like I really have like a very like real understanding of what the world was like without them, where it was like like movies would come out and it's like, man, I really wish there was some superheroes in this movie, and there's just like no superheroes in sight.
You see movies in 81, you're like, it's gonna be like this forever. It's never gonna stop.
It was like one of the guys who wrote for The Simpsons wrote a book, and he was talking about how like when he was a kid, you'd watch like you'd see Bewitched, you'd see My Favorite Martian, and it's like every show had like some like some weirdo in it, or the Addams Family, the Munsters, and he's like, what are shows going to be like in the future? It's going to be all weirdos. But then it's like, no, that was like the peak, and then shows just became homogenous, just kind of like boredom, like all the weirdness got like sucked out of them.
Like we were mentioning the Fox lineup. I like a show with a good a gimmick.
Think about that early Fox lineup, because like you'd have like Dracula the series, Werewolf the series. It was like one after the other, and they would never, they had a high hit to miss ratio. It would be like I'd be all in, and then they'd like drop the show like that. Like they were just kind of like. They didn't put the oomph behind anything. They didn't believe in anything. Like that's what
they pulled the plug.
Yeah, that's what you learn after the fact. Is like it seemed like it was this like kind of like rebellious thing. But it was like they wanted to be NBC, CBS in the '80s. So it's like they would do all this like crazy stuff to kind of get on the map. But then as soon as they could do something kind of like corporate, they jump on it.
On Fox, remember Alien Autopsy?
They tease it. Like, the teases would be amazing, because you'd see, like, and the grainy footage of the...
I'm like, oh my god, they got an alien, they're gonna do it.
So irresponsible. Alien...
Was it Alien Nation?
Alien Nation, that was it. Alien Nation, where it's like a cop. And there was like a guy who was kind of like a Harry Hamlin lookalike, who was like the cop. And it was like they were like buddy cops, and one was an alien and one was like
Speaking
an
of Alien Nation, that's another thing that scared the crap out of me. They like tortured the guy with like blowing air on his chest. I thought it was like scary. We were switching through and like Twin Peaks came by, and there was a guy put like a bar of soap in a sock and was swinging around gonna like beat somebody with it. I was like, this is like disturbing.
Did you see Full Metal Jacket? Did you see Full Metal Jacket? Because a guy got beaten with multiple bars of soap.
Gomer Pyle.
Gomer Pyle, yeah. The Kraken has been released. One of the things that makes me like sort of choose this over Jason and the Argonauts, and again, Jason and the Argonauts, great movie. But what makes me choose this is like Jason and the Argonauts. There's a couple scenes that should have been stop motion. But they just like were like, look, budget. So then it's like instead they just got like a guy to push the two mountains apart or whatever, and they just kind of like filmed it from below. You know, like it's like that should have been a stop motion thing. You know, so this there's pound for pound more stop motion in this. That yes, the skeletons are a showstopper or whatever, but like I'm on team Clash of the Titans. Maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe it's like us versus our dad's generation or whatever.
It's like too many Jasons. Dude,
Seventh Voyage of Sinbad is like freaky. It's got some some of the same way Medusa's kind of freaky, and there's like a snake woman in that too.
Oh, I'm all in.
You know, the cavalry's coming. It's like, we cut to Andromeda in danger, and then we cut to Perseus on Pegasus, like I'm coming, and then we cut back there.
Damn this hair! It's wind. It's not aerodynamic. It slowed my ass down.
Right. Yeah, it's like a parachute. The Kraken is super cool. Like when they made the toy, they didn't have a Medusa toy, but they did have a Kraken toy, like a giant Kraken toy.
Oh,
like it's kind of like when he's climbing up, and then that third arm comes up. It's like, oh, that, it's like a nice little surprise.
That's so awesome.
One of the things that Harryhausen always wanted to do, he wanted to do War of the Worlds. So even like that classic 1950s War of the Worlds, he like kind of pitched a War of the Worlds, like kind of like before that, that he wanted to do. It never happened, but he did like test footage. And you can find it on YouTube, this like test footage of like this stop motion animated alien with like 3 arms.
Sick as hell.
Yeah, and like the War of the Worlds, like the Martians were all like everything was the 3 legs, 3 eyes, 3 arms. Some of these things have been like in his workshop, his whole career. So like there's aspects of the Kraken that kind of look like some of his other movie monsters, like the Beast from 40,000 or the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms or whatever. Like like you can see like his bag of tricks and stuff kind of like coming together.
Dude, the Kraken looks amazing. If only you could have won those toys.
Yeah, the Kraken wasn't one of them. I think it was like you got Perseus, Calibos, and maybe like one other. Like I don't know who the third one.
Dude, that Kraken looks so good.
Yeah, the glisten and this is like, CGI. It's like. It was a long time before you'd get that kind of glisten, and even so, and this is a guy and maybe a couple assistants or whatever, like one move by little by little making this horse do his thing, and I could see like somebody else being like, okay, we'll film a horse galloping, and we'll film like a bird flapping its wings, and then we'll just kind of composite them over. But it's like no, I'm gonna do it this way, and you make magic. It really is magic.
How are they doing that? You're breaking the ribs, Percy.
Can we keep making these? Like after this movie, it's like let's do this again. Like there's let's do Hercules. I mean, maybe Hercules was done to death with all those like 50s and 60s Hercules movies, but it's like let's do Hercules or like let's do. Norse mythology or Egyptian mythology or
I read there was going to be they were working on a sequel to this. They had a sequel, they were working on it.
Was it called Wrath of the Titan? Yeah, because Perseus and Andromeda, they have like a bunch of kids. Andromeda, like her home is in Ethiopia, and then I think Perseus's kids, like according to mythology or whatever, like. Become the founders of Persia, which is like Perseus, Persia. Okay. So it's like, like these myths. It's like you could do prequels, you could do sequels. Like there's material. There's enough material there.
The Prince of Persia. They're like Jake Gyllenhaal is the Prince of Persia.
Yeah, he's Perseus's great grandson.
Oh, little discus. The Olympic event, the Medusa head toss.
Pegasus does have a role in the Medusa story. It's not the way it is here, but like Perseus does all his flying in the story with his like winged sandals in the myth. But then like when he kills Medusa and she's in her like death throes, out of like where her head is cut off, out of the hole in her neck, Pegasus flies out. She gives birth to Pegasus through her neck.
That's awesome.
So Pegasus flies out, and then like I think 2 sons, like maybe she has a son.
Okay.
That comes and might even be riding Pegasus. Like in my adaptation, I had this, like this sort of like blood-covered Pegasus and blood-covered person, riding Pegasus and kind of flying, and like
sick.
Percy is kind of looking at it like what, and it's like this like scary kind of like heavy metal like red gut-covered kind of thing
so
flying, and then it like goes in the water. And then it comes out, and then it's all like cleaned up, and it's like it's Pegasus. I think they made some good choices.
They definitely did. Even the poster looks so sick for this movie. Looks like a dope like NES or like Atari game cover.
Yeah, like imagine like a world where this movie like really caught on in a big way, and then you have like a cool video game adaptation. You have like a whole line of toys and sequels. For the NES, there was Battle of Olympus, which was kind of like a side-scrolling adventure game with like I guess some RPG elements, but it kind of used a similar engine to Zelda 2: Adventure of Link. But that would be your way of like playing out like Clash of the Titans in a video game.
Oh my god, I've seen this cover.
Yeah.
That looks so fucking amazing.
Yeah, and look,
the graphics are awesome.
That it was like there were a bunch of games in like Zelda 2 came out, and then there was like this. Faxanadu. Do you remember Faxanadu?
No.
That was like another one where it was like the side-scrolling adventure. This part always stuck with me of like constellations at the end.
Sorry to rub salt in, man. That would have been sick on the big screen.
Yeah, but like when I went to see E.T., I was kind of freaked out by the idea. Like E.T. was a little too scary, so maybe it was for the best.
I like leave the theater. I complain to the manager. I'm like, how dare you give that alien beer?
It was the poster is what freaked me out for E.T. because it's just this like lizard arm, and I'm like, what is attached to that scary lizard arm? My older cousins were gonna go see Aliens in the theater.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted so bad to go with them. They're like, yeah, you can come with us. And my parents were like, no, it's too scary. You'll be, and like, I'm like, no, I'm not scared of aliens. I'm scared of exorcism. I'm scared of like Satan, demon possession, serial killers. I'm not scared of aliens. Aliens are because you got your laser gun.
Yeah, you have heavy weaponry.
Like, no, it's too scary. Don't go. So I like and like I never got over not being able to see Aliens in the theater.
Gosh.
I always kind of had a grudge against it. Like it's a classic. It's a great movie, but I never quite warmed up to it the way I knew I should have because of that grudge of not getting to see it in the theater. Where with this, it was like this was my decision. I opted out.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm okay with that.
You made the call. The credits look good too.
Yeah, nice looking font. The end credits, it looks like you just saw a Star Wars movie with like all the stars, Battle Beyond the Stars,
and the yellow font.
And it's like that was going to be the sequel. It would be like it would be like Perseus 2000 or whatever. This,
it was weird at the beginning.
Space opera, 1981.
It was weird at the beginning of the movie. Like the camera's up in space and it like panned down to like the planet. I was like, that's weird.
A Pegasus comes flying into view, and then a giant Pegasus behind him.
It was weird. Like how the.
So what's this like? Is this putting you in the mood to watch? Golden Voyage of Sinbad has some cool, like it has this cool sequence with like Shiva, this like statue of Shiva that comes to life with like all these arms and swords.
Arms.
That it's got that. But Golden Voyage of Sinbad, I wouldn't. I mean, it's not. Golden Voyage isn't bad. Like the Sinbad that's kind of a chore is Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. It's got like a couple cool like effects in it, but it's not as good as the others. Seventh Voyage of Sinbad is the best. Golden Voyage is pretty good. Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger not so great. Did you ever see Legend?
Oh yeah. That's a great one.
I love all the movies that are coming up. Yeah, okay, no. Because then you got like Crow, Never-Ending Story, Masters of the Universe, Ice Pirates, Conan, Flash Gordon.
Oh yeah.
Return to Oz. There you go. There's an underrated. Okay, Dragon Slayer. Is it Peter McNichol? I think plays.
Oh, I love
hero?
Peter McNichol. Widescreen too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if you'll excuse me. I'm gonna go try to get those black bars off the screen.
Right. Yeah. What are those? What's going on under and below this? You know what those black bars are? They're covering up the boom mic. The boom mic is behind. When I was a kid, it's like I was preparing myself for a career of making these kind of movies. I thought like, okay, but when I'm an adult, I'm gonna start making barbarian movies. I'm gonna make Greek mythology movies. I'm gonna, all this, and it's like by the time I was like 6, this stuff was done. It was over. Clash of the Titans, it's put me in the mood to like watch more of this kind of stuff. I don't know how much talking we did about the actual movie Clash of the Titans. I think there was, I remember a lot of tangents. Early Fox TV shows.
Yeah, sorry I dropped in.
Herman's Head.
Herman's Head was mentioned. Trying to get black bars, the widescreen bars off of a television.
It does make a handy place to put the subtitle. So yeah, you've been watching the Clash of the Titans episode of Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli. Support my Patreon. Just go to patreon.com and search my name, Tom Scioli. And you can follow me on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at Total Recall Show or on Instagram at Total_Recall_show.
I'd done a lot of prep work. I memorized all the rosters of the Tennessee Titans football team for the last 10 years in prep.
And you saw Remember the Titans.
I saw Remember the Titans.
You watched a bunch of the wrong movie. You watched a bunch of movies that were not this, and then you watched the 2008 version.
Yeah, and I watched the Rock's Titan games.
You watched Titan AE.
I watched Titan AE, and also I drove and came back. I went to the WWE headquarters, Titan Towers, in Connecticut.
You watched a documentary about the Clash.